Welcome to Design Domination, where you'll learn to become a better, more business-savvy designer so you can dominate your competition. Hi, and thanks for tuning in. I'm Colleen Grotzer, and in this episode of Design Domination, I'm getting into why accessible WordPress themes do not mean a website is accessible. I decided to do a podcast on this because many web designers and developers who get into accessibility think that using an accessibility-ready WordPress theme means the website will be accessible. I also get asked quite a bit which accessibility-ready themes I recommend and which WordPress themes are truly accessible. So I want to address this common misconception and this question. First off, I want to explain why it's good to start with an accessible WordPress theme. The theme is the underlying structure of a website. It also controls a lot of the functionality such as the navigation menu, blog, and search. And when that functionality is not accessible, anyone who uses assistive technology such as a screen reader or even the keyboard as opposed to a mouse may not be able to get around the website. That could potentially be about 20% of website visitors. That could include people with blindness or low vision who use a screen reader or a braille reader. It could also be individuals with a cognitive disability such as dyslexia who may use a screen reader. It could be individuals with a motor disability such as from a broken arm or a stroke. They may be using a keyboard because they cannot use or control a mouse. The point is that not everyone who visits a website uses a mouse. So when functionality and interactive items on a website are not accessible, then these individuals are unable to get around the website, use the navigation, perform a search, or select and activate hyperlinks. I say select because they may be tapping or using the keyboard to do so, but not clicking with a mouse. Even if you use an accessible WordPress theme, whether it's in the WordPress repository or not, it probably isn't 100% accessible. Some of them are not even close. Some have several WCAG violations, some of which may or may not be accessibility barriers that prevent someone from doing something on the website. These are often not issues that you can detect with an automated checker. Some things must be manually checked. But whether or not you were to use the most accessible WordPress theme out there, there is another point to consider. Now, I mentioned that a common misconception that many web designers have about accessible WordPress themes is that they think it means the theme will make the website accessible. But themes only affect the structure of a site, the setup of the page templates, the navigation, the blog functionality, the search functionality, like I mentioned. Themes do not affect any design changes that you may make. Themes do not ensure good contrast. I've seen many themes that do not use sufficient contrast even in their default settings. Most web designers and developers are going to change the colors from the existing ones though anyway. But if you don't know about contrast requirements or use of color guidelines and don't check for these issues, then that will present accessibility issues for sighted users. That would be individuals with low vision or color blindness, for example. Accessibility-ready themes don't take into consideration the page content. When you change a website over to an accessibility-ready theme or create a new site with one, it won't affect the page content at all. For example, an accessible theme can't put headings in the right order on the page. It can't retag headings that should be body text as body text. It can't tag body text that should be a list as a list. It can't fix hyperlink text. It can't add captions to videos. It can't add transcripts where there is audio and video. It can't check that images have alt text, and the proper alt text at that. Now, on the other hand, it can't check that images that shouldn't have alt text have null alt text. It can't check that the tab order and reading order are correct. It can't prevent your client from making inaccessible edits to the page content. Accessibility-ready themes also can't check whether or not downloadable documents are accessible. These could be PDFs, Word documents, or PowerPoint files. I mean, if a website needs to be accessible, then so do the documents. But documents on the site are often overlooked. Accessibility-ready themes can't do anything for the functionality that you add to a site. They can't fix any functionality that you add with a plugin. They can't fix inaccessible forms that you add with a plugin. They can't prevent you or anyone else from adding a plugin with inaccessible functionality to the website. They can't make something that you might manually code accessible. Something else to consider, though, is that themes can get updated by their developers at any time and render something that was accessible not accessible. And the reverse is true as well, that something that was an accessibility issue got taken care of. The thing to remember is that accessibility is not set it and forget it. Accessibility is an ongoing process. As anything gets updated, the degree of accessibility may change. So accessibility-ready themes are a good foundation, a good start. But now you know there are many other aspects to consider to making a site accessible. Now, back to the question that I get asked a lot, and that is, which themes are accessible? Which ones do I recommend? Well, for what it's worth, let me preface my answer with this. I know how to code HTML. I am by no means a PHP developer, but I know what I can get away with copying and pasting and modifying, or what I should stay away from. Having said that, I prefer underscores because I like to be able to have control over the page templates and not have to undo something another web developer did. I also don't want to have to update a theme, take time to recheck it for potential accessibility issues, or find that something is no longer accessible. I've notified several developers about accessibility issues in some themes that I used in the past, even some popular themes. And it just got to the point where it was easier for me to code things myself than it was to continue trying to hack a theme to fix the issues. Okay, so Astra, GeneratePress, and Genesis Framework are other themes that I've used. Another accessible WordPress theme is Icelander, which is a paid theme. I haven't used it, but I've checked out the live demo. As of today, though, I noticed that something seems to have changed in the setup of the navigation. And that leads me to make this important point. Like any WordPress theme, an accessible theme could change at any point in time. I could say this theme is pretty accessible, and the next day it could be a different story. Whichever themes you're considering, it's important to assess any accessibility-ready WordPress theme by checking the keyboard navigation of the navigation menu. And that's because that's usually the most difficult part to get right on a website. You can find out more about accessibility, the basics and benefits of it, how to talk to clients about it, and even deal with any objections they may have, and even what you can do right now to start helping your clients and yourself. Just go to creative-boost.com/accessible websites to get my free guide on understanding accessible websites.